All right. MG, if you can go ahead and take us to the next slide. This will be our agenda for this evening. So first, I'll do an overview of our IDA network and other local resources that we have. The next, after that, that we will have a MG will have a presentation on what it is to file the legal name change with the probate court in Massachusetts. And then they will follow that up with a walkthrough of all of the forms and the process that are a part of that legal name change with the court. So then after that, we'll switch over and I will take back over and I will do an overview of federal and state ID documents. So that will be everything from your driver's license to your birth certificate to your passport. There are a couple of other documents that have been asked about in the questions that we won't cover specifically in the presentation, but we will address some of those documents in the Q&A section at the end. And then we will also provide our contact information to you all so that if any of you have questions about what we've talked about, you can reach out to us. And then finally, we'll finish off with that Q&A. And then we'll go over the questions that were asked prior, and then also the ones that have been asked during the session. All right, if you can go ahead to the next slide.
Just a quick note that the
Yeah.
chat is disabled just as the Q&A is open. So we are accepting questions via Q&A, but the chat itself is not a feature of tonight.
All right. So just a quick overview of MTPC. So we are the Massachusetts Transgender Political Coalition. We work to ensure the well-being, safety, and lived equity of all trans, non-binary, and gender-expansive community members in Massachusetts. We envision a world where all trans, non-binary, and gender-expansive people are valued and celebrated, fully participate and thrive in all areas of society, and actualize our full potential and self-determination to shape the future. So this webinar tonight is a part of our IDA network, our Identity Document Assistance Network, through which we assist trans, non-binary, and gender-expansive people in Massachusetts and New England with legal name and or gender marker changes. So this can include one-on-one assistance with completing forms, both with the court forms and other identity document updates. We also provide financial assistance for up to $500 of expenses related to the name change process. There are some exclusions, but one of the resources that we will share with you tonight is information about that, and everything that's listed on there is something that is our fees that we can cover. We also, as Ava hinted at, we provide access to the namesake platform, which can help semi-automate and streamline the legal name change process in Massachusetts. We also have connections to free legal advocacy through some of our partners. This is both folks who can provide you with information and resources, and also if the need arises, we can also connect you with attorneys who can represent you. And just while I'm on that point, none of us at MTPC are attorneys, and we cannot and do not provide legal representation or advice. Everything that we are providing here is simply guidance through what is an overly complicated process. We can, like I said, connect you with attorneys as you might need them, but for the most part, people do not actually need an attorney's assistance through this process. So the IDA network kind of steps in to really help you through this process so that you can do it yourself without needing to either hire or get pro bono assistance from an attorney. We also have connections to free notarization services with our lovely network of notaries across the state. MG can talk a little bit more about that later if there are questions about this, but there are the forms for the court process for legal name changes do require notarization. And this is a great example of the clinics and webinars that we provide. We both do in-person and virtual webinars or name change clinics such as this one. And that is pretty much the overview of the IDA network. So just really quickly, I want to give you all the opportunity to follow along with us tonight on the forums if you would like. So if you go to masstpc.org/IDA, as it's listed here on the slide, there's a quick reference guide for legal name changes for adults, a quick reference guide for legal name changes for minors, and then also a breakdown of name change costs and associated fees. All of these guides on our website, which I will also put in the chat, will also have links to all of the forms that you need to fill and download. So this is the quick.
Kelsey, I'm happy to put things in the chat.
Great. If you wouldn't mind putting in the last two, that would be awesome. Thank you, Trandre. So these guides will be going into the chat so that you can follow along, and feel free to work on the forms while we're in the webinar. We can't provide one-on-one assistance during this virtual name change clinic, but this can help you if you just look through it, understand. So if questions arise, you can stick them in the Q&A. And then also, we are able to provide one-on-one assistance with folks after the clinic. If you reach out to us via email, we can set up a time to meet with you. You can go ahead to the next slide. So now I'm going to ask Ava to come and just talk a little bit about namesake.
Sure. Thanks, Kelsey. So like Kelsey mentioned, filling out this paperwork can be a little bit challenging, and figuring out how to navigate all of the different steps of the name change process can be a little bit tricky. And so my co-founder, Luke, who's in this photo, and I have, helped create this platform called Namesake to guide you through it so that you can basically get steps for, filling out your court order form, typing into the fields there, having your PDF already get filled out so you could just print it, take it to a notary, sign it. And it's just a little bit easier than trying to navigate some of the state of Massachusetts websites and information there. So we have an existing website that's up with an application that you can use to fill out the forms that you need. And then we also have a Discord server that's available for chatting and getting answers about any questions that come up, or even just trying out new names and chatting with other people who are going through the process and things like that. So I can share links to both of those in the chat as well. But this is a tool that's available for free to anyone who needs it. And we'll make sure the links are in the chat there as well. Anything I missed, MG? Thanks.
All right, and now I'm going to ask Jay to talk about Court Service Center.
Yeah, so I work at the Court Service Center, and we're really excited to partner with MTPC tonight. The Court Service Centers are run by the Massachusetts Trial Court, so they're from part of the state. And I am an attorney. We have several attorneys that work there, even although we cannot give legal advice, only legal information. But basically, we have virtual and in-person services. We have 7 or 8 different locations throughout the state. One here in Boston. There's a bunch of other ones: Lowell, Lawrence, Worcester, Brockton, all across the state, where you can go. We're open every day, Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30, where people can just walk in. You don't need an appointment. You can walk in and get help with your legal paperwork. And we also have virtual services where you can call in and do paperwork over Zoom. So we can help with name change paperwork for anybody, as well as notarization services. We also have lots of other legal help as well. We can help with probate and family court cases. We can help with housing, eviction cases. We can help with small claims, guardianships, and lots of other different case types. So we do more than just name changes, but obviously that's what we're here for tonight. So we do help with those all across the state, in person and virtual. Our website is there if everybody is interested. That's where you can go to get connected, find out where our locations are, and get connected to our virtual services as well.
Great, thank you so much, Jay. So now I am going to hand it over to MG for the main event.
Alrighty, folks. Thank you all for sharing about those resources. It's been lovely to connect with Jay and Ava through this type of assistance. So next we'll be going into preparing to file your legal name change petition. So this is some helpful information before we dig into the forms. to ensure that you are prepared with what you need. So it's important to note that name changes in the legal process and on your identity documents must be done in a specific order. So that will start with the court petition. This is you actually petitioning the court to legally change your name. This will be the first step that we're going through tonight when we're going through the forms. Next up, within about 30 days of receiving your certificate of legal name change, you'll want to make sure that the name on your social security card is updated. And Kelsey will share more about amending your social security card there along with these other identity documents. After you change your social security card, you can apply for a driver's license or state ID. The real ID qualification is coming up in May of 2025 as of now. And so it's great to start thinking about getting a real ID or what your ID options are. And then after that, you can get a US passport, whether you're renewing it or getting one for the first time. And then you can amend your birth certificate in the state or country that you were born in. That process differs based on location, whereas the Social Security card and US passport are federal documents that have a standardized process, regardless of where you're coming from within the United States. And then you are left with a long laundry list of other spaces to update your name, such as your accounts and profiles with banking, loans, leases, all of that under the sun. One thing that MTPC has been aiming to develop is kind of as a comprehensive list as possible of where those name changes will come following your major identity documents. So that is for name changes. And we get the question a lot, what about my gender marker? Do I need to change that with the state? And so you will not actually file any petition or have a court proceeding to legally change your gender marker. Instead, gender markers will be changed on specific identity documents when you are amending those specific documents. On your social security card, you have the option to choose F or M. For your driver's license or state ID in Massachusetts, you have F, M, or X as your options. For your US passport, F, M, or X. And your birth certificate, the options for sex markers on your birth certificate may vary depending on when you were or where you were born. Additionally, gender markers do not have to align across documents. There may be a variety of reasons why you may want a certain gender marker on one document, but not on the other. That could be safety reasons, personal reasons, depending on the frequency that you might be using a specific identity document. A conversation that I've been having more and more with folks is assessing what gender marker they should put on their US passport as they consider travel, where they're traveling to, where layovers might be. So if you want to chat about safety considerations or what you're thinking of as you approach gender markers on these identity documents, that's also a conversation that MTPC is equipped to have with you. And to begin the legal name change petition process, you will need an original or certified copy of your birth certificate. And if your birth certificate is not in English, you will need to provide a certified translated copy of that birth certificate. You will need to know your social security number. The card itself, you do not need. And then you will need a Massachusetts residential address. That includes dorms for college students. And to be a legal resident in Massachusetts, you need to spend 183 days or half the year in the state. The information that will be asked on required court forms for adults, that includes your current legal name, and if you've previously legally changed your name before, your place and date of birth, your Massachusetts residential address, your contact information, your full social security number, parent one or mother's maiden names, so their last name at birth, and all other legal and non-legal aliases used. We'll talk a little bit more about this when we get to that part of the form. And then for minors, in addition to this information above, you'll also need the legal name, address, and contact for all parents and legal guardians of that child. And Another question I get all the time is people ask, so where do I go? Should I just hop on to any courthouse? No, you will file specifically with the probate and family court in the county that you reside in. So you'll see a variety of county probate courts here. You can find the one that is specific to your zip code at this website here. You can just very simply put in your address, your zip code, or your town, and it will direct you to the probate court that is appropriate for you. And to file with the probate court, you will need to complete all required forms. One of the forms requires that it be notarized, and you'll make a plan to pay. We'll talk about what those expenses are and financial assistance options that are available to you. And then when you have the completed forms and a payment plan, you will file with your local probate and family court. You can do this in person by walking in during open hours. So no appointment is needed. You just walk in, wait for a clerk to be available, and hand them your name change paperwork. In this in-person appointment, you do not need to share with the clerk that you're there to legally change your name. You can just give the required documentation to them. You can file by mail by mailing in all of the required forms and documents to address to the probate court appropriate to your county. And you can e-file via the Massachusetts court system. E-filing we found to be quite difficult for the average person to do, but many attorneys and lawyers and paralegals who have experience with e-filing are able to do this. Jay and I are actually meeting in a few weeks to develop an e-filing guide so that we can make that more accessible to folks not privy to the legal system. And then a docket number, once you file with a probate court, a docket number will be assigned to your case and it can be tracked here. A lot of people we've assisted, including my own name change petition. It happened so quickly, I never even realized what my docket number was. And so that might not be something you're made aware of until after your name change case. The process takes about 2 to 7 weeks to hear back from the probate and family court with a decision. Keep in mind, this is an average, and this may vary county to county, season to season. We have assisted someone who submitted their paperwork in June. It was a very standard case, and for whatever reason, they didn't hear back until 3 months later. And so this is the average waiting time, but individual waiting times may differ. In this process, it is unlikely, but it is possible that a hearing may be called for you to present your name change petition in front of a judge to ensure that the court has enough information to make an informed decision to approve or deny your name change petition. If no additional information is required, you will be presented with your certificate of legal name change, and that will be sent in the mail to the address that is listed on the petition. Upon completion, upon receipt of your certificate of legal name change, you can request 1 to 2 additional copies from the court clerk. As we go through, especially amending those federal and state identity documents, you'll see that there's a number of times where you'll need to present this certificate, and having a couple extra copies on hand will be helpful. And then you'll be ready to start your next steps, updating your federal and state ID documents. And so these are the expenses for the legal name change process. Right now, I'm just going to focus on these top 2. We're going to go through the federal and state identity documents a little bit later. So to file your legal name change petition, it will be generally a total of $180. This will be a $150 filing fee, a $15 surcharge, and if required, a $15 citation fee. There is an affidavit of indigency, which will waive the court fees that you can request and submit along with your name change petition. We'll go over that form a little bit later. But unless you are submitting an affidavit of indigency, you do need to be prepared to pay this $180. This includes the $15 citation fee, even if you are looking and requesting to waive the publication requirement. I might circle back to this after we go through some of the forms, because I think it might make a little bit more sense when we go through those forms. And then this citation fee means that anyone 12 or older in Massachusetts who legally changes their name is required by the probate court to publish notice of their legal name change in a local newspaper unless they have their request to waive this publication requirement approved. So if you do have to publicize your legal name change, that will be $15 to the court, in addition to the publication fee that the local newspaper will charge you. That can vary depending on the assigned newspaper. We estimate that that will be about $30 to $200. And then how to actually pay the probate and family court. If you're paying by check, you can make checks payable to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. You can pay with debit or credit card when filing in person at the probate and family court. I believe you can pay e-pay, so online payment via mass courts, and then exact cash in person at the probate and family courts. As a reminder, MTPC's IDA Network Financial Assistance is here for you, providing up to $500 for all of the expenses you saw on the previous slide. So here's that affidavit of indigency I mentioned earlier. So the affidavit of indigency is the Massachusetts court fee waiver that you can apply for based on eligibility criteria to waive the required fees. You must meet one of these three specific criteria under the state. So you receive public assistance under one of these specific programs. Your income after taxes does not exceed 125% of the current federal poverty line, or you cannot pay the court fees or costs without depriving yourself and your legal dependents of basic necessities. The affidavit of indigency is a form that we can go over later together, but this is an option that is available to folks. All right, so now we'll be getting into the actual forms that are required, the overview of the legal name change process. The required forms for name change petition for adults includes what's called the CJP 27, the petition to change name of an adult. It also includes the CJP 34, court activity, record information, and warrant management system release request form, or CORI and WMS. For minors, the petition to change the name of a minor is CJP 25. You'll include that CJP 34 again if the child is 12 or older. And then this form is the affidavit disclosing care or custody proceeding. This form is required anytime there is a case involving a minor. If applicable, the CJP 30 or assent to petition to change name of a minor is for when one or more legal guardians cannot be present for the notarizing of the legal name change petition. To include this, to ensure that all legal guardians are made aware of this court proceeding for the minor child. So these forms are required, and then there's some additional forms. The first additional optional but encouraged form is called the CJD 400, motion to waive the publication requirement. So as I mentioned before, in Massachusetts, legal name changes must be published in a local newspaper, and waiving publication can be requested and is at the discretion of the judge. Additionally, the same form can be used to motion to impound the entire case. We'll talk a little bit more when we explore these two forms, and Jay can explain more about what it means to impound and how you can apply for that. And then, as I mentioned in the slide before with eligibility criteria, there is the affidavit of indigency to request to waive the filing fees. So if you're following along, if you are an adult who is looking to complete the paperwork tonight, you'll start off by opening up the CJP 27 form that Treyandre put in the chat. So starting at the top, you'll see a docket number. You're going to leave that blank because you haven't yet filed, so a docket number has not yet been assigned to you. In the matter of, you will need to write your current legal name exactly as it is spelled, exactly as it appears on your legal documents, first, middle, and last. The division is going to be the county that you live in. So that could be Middlesex, that could be Essex, Suffolk, what have you. That is a county in Massachusetts that you reside in. And then, as if you didn't just write it before, you're going to write your current legal name once more on item 1, what your current legal name is, and your place and date of birth. Item 2, you'll share your current Massachusetts residential address, and the address here should align with the county that you're saying you are filing in. You'll then share your contact information, so that'll be your phone number and your email address. That is how the court will get into contact with you if they need additional information from you. Item 3 will ask if you have ever legally changed your name prior to this legal name change petition. There's a variety of reasons why someone might have legally changed their name, whether that's marriage, divorce, adoption, other reasons. And so you will write out what it was originally, what you changed it to, and the reason for that. If you have not previously legally changed your name, you can just skip this section and check box no. This form alert here after item 3 is an important checkbox to note. So I mentioned that one thing that you will need when legally changing your name is a certified copy of your birth certificate. If you've ever legally changed your name, you would also need to present certified copies of prior name changes. That may include marriage certificates, divorce decree, or court-ordered name changes. So with this paperwork, those previous name change decrees that you may have received, if you have legally changed your name before, will need to be submitted along with this petition form. By checking this box, you're saying to the court, after you review my paperwork, I want my forms back. If you don't checkbox this, they're going to get lost somewhere, and you will have to request those important documents like a birth certificate or a marriage certificate again from vital records. Item 4 asks, have you ever used any other name or alias? So this is this could be a non-legal name. Typically, MTPC shares that if you have used a name for 3 months or more in professional settings, to list that. As we know, a lot of us go through a variety of names before we find the one that feels right to us. And you should not feel compelled to write out every single name you might have ever tried before, but more so a name that you've used for a greater amount of time. And if it's in a setting like work or school or a more formal setting that you're using it. And then the fun part, number 5 asks what you are trying to legally change your name to. So you're going to write this exactly as written. For folks with not so great handwriting like myself, you may want to type this one out just to make sure you get it exactly as you would like it. That includes periods, that includes hyphens, again, exactly as written. If you want a certain letter to be capitalized, that must be clear in the petition. Item 6 asks, I am requesting that my name be changed for the following reason. There are a few things that you can put here. The example from Massachusetts court system says, this is the name I am known by to friends and family. That could be all you put, and that will be accepted as such, provided there is no additional information that is required. For other people, such as myself, when I was going through this process, I found it important to note my gender identity. I said, I'm requesting that my name be changed to affirm my gender as a transgender individual. And so you can say both of those things. You can say one or the other. If neither of those reasons resonate with you, you can say, I have been using this name in all settings for this amount of time. I've had people write, I just like this name better, or this name feels right to me. And so you'll notice there's not a lot of room here because they don't need your life story. And so oftentimes we might feel the need to over-explain ourselves to justify these processes, but they're just looking for a brief explanation, 1 sentence, 2 sentences max, to share why you are legally changing your name. Item 7 we'll talk about is the next form we'll talk about after the minor petition. You can request an interpreter on this hearing if you require it, if there is a hearing. and you can share the pronouns that you would like the court staff to use in the event that you are appearing in person. Both of these are optional. And then the last step, this is just a front and back page form. You need this petition notarized by a certified notary in Massachusetts. And a notary is essentially someone who can verify your identity when completing legal forms such as this one. When you get your petition notarized, you will need to present an ID so that the notary can verify that you are the person who is completing this form. And you will sign it only when you are in the presence of a notary. People often ask me, does my signature need to look like my old name or my previous legal name? What your signature looks like doesn't really matter. It can be a scribble. It can be the signature of your affirmed name. So you don't feel compelled to have to make it look like your previous legal name if that's not what your signature normally is. And as Kelsey mentioned earlier, when providing the overview of the IDEN network, MTPC provides connections to free notaries. So we have a notary listserv of wonderful volunteers who have been trained across the state in providing affirming notarization services. You can reach out to MTPC anytime, and we can get you connected to someone that is local to your area that can provide this affirming assistance for free. Otherwise, you can often receive notarization services through your local bank branch, some public libraries, other places, especially if you work in an office, someone is likely to be a notary. All right, so that was for adults.
Hey, MG.
Yes.
We've got a couple of questions that before we move on to minors, I'd love to try and answer for folks. So the first one is about previous name changes. Is from someone who's asking if you're adopted, is that considered a legal name change if you were a small child and was adopted from another country? So this is a question that I don't know if any of our panelists have an answer to, but I wanted to see if anyone has an answer for that question.
I can jump in on that one. So I think it really depends on what's on your birth certificate. So many times when people are adopted, they get a new birth certificate with their name that was changed. And so in that case, you wouldn't need anything from your prior name, and you would just say, I've never changed my name before, just use what's on the birth certificate going forward. Or some people, when they're adopted, they have not changed their birth certificate. And so in that case, you would need to say. So basically, it's whatever's on your birth certificate that matters. That is your legal name, and that's from there forward.
Thank you, Jay. Next question is, I go to college in Massachusetts, but I also live here. Which probate court should I go to? The one in my hometown or the one where my dorm is? I think wherever you have legal residence, so I'm not.
Yeah, honestly, probably either one would be fine.
Yeah, I would say whichever mailing address is more reliable.
Yeah.
And then there is a question about, this is a little bit about passport, so I will wait until that time to get there. And then there's a question about notaries is, does it have to be a Massachusetts notary? If we're in New York, can it be notarized in New York? And I'm looking at the form and it looks like it could be someone from another state, but I don't know if MG or Jay, if you have any.
Actually, I don't know the answer to this. I don't see why not.
It doesn't say on the form that it's required to be a Massachusetts notary, and it also allows you to enter in what state you're in and where your commission is from. So
yeah,
I think it should be fine to be a notary from another state.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have another question that says, I'm going to actually ask this person to ask their question again with some more details, which is, if I'm going to move soon in January, do I need to wait to start my petition? My question is, are you moving within the state of Massachusetts to a different county? And if you could just, actually, I think I can, Yeah, I can actually chat with you. So I'll shoot you a message in the chat. And then the next one is we filled out the CJP 27 in all caps via the PDF. Does that matter? And yes, you will want to go back and make sure that the name is done in uppercase and lowercase. It should be updated so that it's not all in uppercase.
And that's specifically for item 5. The rest, it's less important, but
Yeah.
item 5, exactly as written, lower and uppercase.
Yep. Thank you, MG. Right. And so there are some questions here about other identity documents that we'll get to later in the. Oh yeah, so this person followed up and said they're moving from Boston to Cambridge. So I would say since you're not moving like you have in-state residency. So what I don't think it really matters which court you file it in. Just if you want to start it now, you can do it in Boston. And if you wait until after you move, you would just do it in Middlesex, which is in Woburn. I don't know if you had anything to add to that, Jay.
Just make sure that you like have mail forwarding or change your address with the court. 'Cause
Yeah.
you want to make sure you get the paperwork at the new address.
Yeah.
But otherwise, yeah, it doesn't matter.
Someone asked if you can change your name if you owe debt. And so we'll get into that. I think we'll get into that a little bit with the CJP 34 form. So we'll probably answer that question. And yeah, and then there's another question that I'll answer later as well. Okay, great. Thanks. I think we can move on now.
Wonderful. So if you are a minor or you are assisting a minor with their legal name change, this is a petition that you will fill out. So if you are 17 and under or assisting someone who is 17 and under, a lot of this will look exactly the same. So that will be, again, in the matter of, this is the current legal name of the minor child, not the minor's parent or legal guardian. The county, the same thing with the adult petition. That's the county that you reside in. The petitioner is the minor child. So this will be their current legal name exactly as it appears on their birth certificate, first, middle, and last. On item 2, you'll share who is this petition being presented on behalf of. So that will be all relevant guardians of the minor child. There is, and then the child's place and date of birth, the child's current age, and the child's current Massachusetts residential address. Before I get too deep into the petition for minors, I do want to share that MTPC has one of the gaps in knowledge that we're recognizing is assisting families with minors in their legal name changes, apart from straightforward cases. I use that in scare quotes if anyone is just tuning in. So oftentimes we know that with divorce proceedings or custody proceedings, that some of this information may require more detail. And in those cases, we will typically refer you to one of our lovely volunteer network. Number 5 asks, has a child ever legally changed their name prior to this petition? Hopefully we can get a they, them pronoun in the next update. If yes, you will complete it, including the reason. If no, you will check no and skip that. Similarly, that form alert that I stopped us on last time requires you to submit the child's birth certificate as well as any other certified copies that are required. Checking this box says, I want that form back. The bulk of this CJP 25 is just listing out all of the legal parents and guardians that a child may have. So that will be their legal name, the address, and contact information. It is okay if the residential addresses are different among the parents and guardians.
Can I just jump into that, MG? So
absolutely.
It's important that it matches the birth certificate exactly, right? So sometimes both parents are listed on the birth certificate and they say, well, I have sole custody, but it doesn't matter who has custody for this section. It matters what's on the birth certificate.
Thank you, Jay. All right, this form alert here, if the address or whereabouts of legal parents is unknown, there will be an additional form to file with. Again, if that is required, we may likely connect you with one of our volunteer legal advocates. So if only one parent is listed on the birth certificate, if any legal parent listed on the birth certificate is deceased, or had their parental rights terminated. If none of these are applicable, you don't need to check them. If they are and you have questions, please let us know. And then if there's additional guardians in addition to two parents, there is space for 2 additional guardians to be listed that might be court appointed, temporary, or permanent. Section 8 through 11 is asking about who is assenting to this legal name change petition. Assent means agrees to. So the minor child assents or agrees. Is legal parent 1 assenting or agreeing? Is legal parent 2, or are there other court appointed guardians to assent? 12 and 13 is the same with the adult petition form of what the minor is looking to legally change their name to. Again, exactly as written, hyphens, commas, periods, capitalization. Those same reasons apply. All friends and family know me by this name, changing my name to affirm my gender, or other reasons. That's a brief description, and that feels true and valid for you. 14 is that CJP 34, which is the next slide we'll be talking about. And then you can request a interpreter is the word I was looking for, or or share the pronouns that you would like the court to use. And then the last 2 pages essentially are all of the people listed need their signatures notarized. So that is the minor child. The minor child, if they are 12 years of age or older, they will sign this in the presence of a notary. I will share that if a minor who is older than 12, but still a minor, does not have an identity document to present in front of a notary, you can motion to waive the notarization requirement for a minor 13 to 17. All parents and guardians' signatures need notarized. I don't believe this needs to be like the same notary. If parent 1 and the child does it on one day and then parent 2 does it on a different day, I think that's okay. I'm seeing affirmations from Jay. Wonderful. All right. And this is that assent to petition form. So again, if a parent is not present in the state or proximal to be able to complete the other forms, they can complete this, sharing that they are made aware and that they are agreeing to the legal name change proceeding for the minor child. All right, so this CJP 34 Court Activity Record Information and Warrant Management System Release Request Form. If you're following along, that's the one that Treandra just dropped in the chat. So the case name is going to be in re your current legal name. The county, that's going to be the division, that's going to be the county you're in. This form is used for a variety of different types of proceedings. The one that's applicable to us is change of name. You'll write your current legal name, again, as if it's not been said 1,000,001 times throughout this process. You'll share your date of birth and your full social security number. Previously, they only required the last 4 digits, but a recent change as of May requires the entire social security number. And then you will list mother or parent 1's maiden name. So this was the name that parent 1, the last name of parent 1 at birth. This is a 1-pager. So this was the top of the page. This is the bottom of the page. Have you ever used any other name or alias before? So again, legal and non-legal names you have used, including your chosen name. So the name that you are changing it to. And again, not every single name you've tried on needs to be listed here, but if you've used it for about 3 months or more and in more formal settings. The rest is to be left blank by the, to be completed by the court. And this form essentially exists to ensure that you do not have any outstanding warrants for your arrest or any criminal liabilities that would concern the court in approving your legal name change petition. This is actually a bit archaic of a requirement akin to the publication notice that is required. These proceedings or these measures exist to ensure that you are not trying to evade criminal liabilities, evade debts or loans, which I know someone had asked about. You can still definitely legally change your name if you have debt. It's just needing to prove that you are not legally changing your name to evade that debt.
Yeah, and I'd also like to add quickly that you can definitely legally change your name, even if you have debts that have been sent to collections. You just need to notify both the holder of that debt and the collections agency that your name change has happened as soon as you have received your legal name change petition, like after you've received it approved back from the court. That is totally possible. You just have to provide them with that information to let them know that that has happened.
Thank you, Kelsey.
One more thing to add about that previous form. I know I'm going to be talking later on about impounding dockets and public records. This form is never part of a public record. This does not get docketed or scanned in, so your social security number will never be public record. It only is for the court's use.
Thanks so much, Jay. And Jay, I'm actually going to pass it right back to you for the disclosing care or custody form.
Yeah, so the affidavit of disclosing care and custody, really this form is meant to let the court know of any other custody cases or basically any other cases regarding the child whose name is being changed. Because if there are custody issues, the court wants to know about that before making their decision on if the name is going to be changed. So at the top here, at the top here, you're going to select the court department. So in this case, it's going to be the probate and family court. The court division or county is going to be the county, same as earlier. And then the docket number is left blank. The case name, again, is the same as earlier, in re, and then your current legal name, or the minor's current legal name. And then you're probably going to check off this top one. Unless you're an attorney, you're going to be check out the top one. I'm a party in this case, and my name is blank. So this would be the parent's name would go here, who's ever filling out this form. Then you're going to list the child's name, child A, their first and last name. This form is used for lots of different cases, and so there's sometimes multiple children, but in this case, we're just going to put just the one child, child A. Okay, this top section is about keeping addresses confidential. If you were like to do a motion to impound your address for safety reasons, you'd want to check off one of the boxes here saying, yes, this applies to me, and I want my address to be impounded. You'll also have to do an additional motion to impound your address. So this is not the actual request. The request is the motion, but this is just letting the court know, yes, I am requesting that. And so I'm not filling out the bottom section with my address because I'm requesting that motion to impound. Then you're going to, if you're not doing a motion to impound, you're going to say that third checkbox, the above does not apply to me, and I'll fill in the required information below. So you're going to fill in the child's current address so you need the past 2 years of addresses. So if the child has lived at the current address for more than 2 years, just fill out that current address and that's it. And you can say from, 2002, you can say 2020 to present. You don't have to have an exact date, just like a year is fine. And then the adults who the child lives with, you're going to want to fill in who the adults the child lives with are and the relationship to that child. If the child has moved within 2 years, you want to put previous addresses to get up to those full 2 years. So previous addresses, and then the dates they lived there and who they lived with. So this here is where you're going to list if there are any cases regarding the child. So if there are no cases, you're going to check off that first box there. I have not taken part in, and I do not know of any other cases regarding the child. And then you do not need to fill in anything in here where it's asking that. You can write none if you want to, or you can just leave it blank. Either is fine. If there are cases, then you want to check off either 2 or 3, probably 3. So number 2 is saying I have not taken part in, but I do know about. And number 3 is saying I have taken part in. So usually if it's regarding your child and you're the parent, you've taken part in that case. So you're probably gonna check off number 3. Then you're gonna list which child it is, child A, B, C, or D. In this case, it'll always be child A. Which court department, so it's, will probably be the probate and family court. So if it's Suffolk probate and family court, Middlesex probate and family court, whichever court it was, put the court in there. Or it could be another state, right? Maybe you moved, and so then you're maybe going to say, New York State family court, county, whatever it is, whatever court it is, or it could even be another country, whatever state or country, you just want to put the name of the court. Then the case type or docket number, if you have the docket number, list that. The court wants to know the docket number, so put that there. Then is the case open or closed? If the case is still pending, you want to say open. If the case has been closed, then you want to write closed. And then what is your relationship to the case? So were you a party to the case? Were you a witness, or were you other? So most cases you'll be a party to the case, but it depends on the case type. So if there's multiple cases, you want to do multiple. So you can say, child A, child A, child A, child A. You can fill in for and just put in all the cases that were regarding that child. This next section here wants to know if there were any attorneys, GALs, or probation officers appointed in part of the case. So it's not asking whether or not you used an attorney in that case. Like if you were doing a custody or a divorce case and you had an attorney, you wouldn't list that. This is an attorney appointed in the case. So for example, it would be an attorney appointed for the child, or an attorney appointed to investigate something. Or if there's a GAL or another court investigator, you want to list their names. So for child A, was there anybody appointed? Check yes or no. Or if you don't know, you can check off do not know, and that's fine. If yes, put the person's name and their title. And then the bottom section is the name of the other party in the case. So if you listed cases above, like if there are previous cases regarding the child, you want to list any other parties to that case besides yourself. So if it was a custody case or a divorce case, generally it's going to be the other parent of the child who you want to list their name here. So you'd write child A, the name of that party, and that person's current or last known address. Or if it was a guardianship case, right? Maybe you want to list, maybe grandmother was a temporary guardian for a little bit. You want to write down child A, grandmother's name, and then grandmother's last known address. Okay. And then the bottom here is just contact information. So you want to print your name. It just needs to be one parent that fills this out. You just need one of them, one per case. So just list one parent's name, whoever filled it out, their phone number, their email address, their home address, and then the signature and date. That very bottom part is for an attorney, so leave that blank. Okay, this is me again. So this is the motion to waive publication. So for anybody who's changing your first or middle name only, so if you're keeping your last name, you can use this form here. So this is a motion to waive publication. The court there's a court rule. It's Uniform Probate and Family Practice XXXV. I don't know Roman numerals, so I don't know what that is supposed to say, but XXXV is the rule that allows you to waive publication if you're changing your first and middle name only. So it still is the judge's discretion, but I would say 99% of the time, if you're changing first middle name only, this is going to be approved without any problem. And so if you're changing first middle name only, you can use this form, and you're very likely going to have to not publish in a newspaper. This is a similar motion, but this is for if you are changing your last name as well, or only your last name. In most cases, you're going to have to publish that name change. However, if you have safety concerns, you can request to waive publication of your last name as well. I would say this form really depends judge to judge, court to court, whether or not it's allowed. And it also is really specific to, do you have a specific safety concern, or is it a more general one? What we have listed here is a general safety concern, just saying, hey, I'm transgender and I'm scared for my safety, which is legitimate, but I've seen judges deny motions like this. If you have a specific safety concerns, for example, if you have ever been in a domestic violence situation and you have a specific safety concern from a partner, or if you're worried about your parents, harming you or finding out about something, or if you're worried about an employer, right? If you have anything specific, that's going to really make your case a lot stronger to be able to waive publication of your last name. You do want to include an affidavit along with this motion to help your chances of getting it allowed. And then for both of these, the bottom and the back are going to be the same. So the bottom of both of these forms, you're going to want to put the date, your signature, your current legal name, and your address and phone number. BBO numbers for an attorney, so leave that blank. Notice of hearing, leave blank, that's for the court. And then the bottom is whether or not it's allowed or denied, that will be for the judge. And then on the back, you want to leave that all blank. If there's nobody to serve in this case, and this is a general motion form you can use for hundreds of different things, so that's why it's there, but you can just leave that blank on the back.
Quickly before we move on, Jay, could you talk a little bit about what you mean by including an affidavit with this?
Yeah, so there's a blank affidavit form. It's just kind of basically at the top says affidavit and it has a docket number and the case name, and then it's just a blank section. So you want to write in more detail about the safety concerns, right? So again, I'll talk about sealing public record in a minute, but motions generally are part of the public record, whereas an affidavit is not part of the public record. And so on the motion, you might want to be a little bit more general, just saying, hey, there's a safety concern, please see my attached affidavit. And then in the affidavit, you can get into much more detail about what is that safety concern and be as specific as possible to give you more chance of getting that approved. So, in the affidavit, you can say, you can say, right, if you want, however much you want to say, right, I think that's, you kind of get into a little bit of legal advice and how much you want to include, right? But you could say, I am transgender and I'm worried about, being hurt by this specific person if they find out about my name change.
Okay, so that in that case, submitting the affidavit is really only something if there is a specific concern that you would like to privately mention to the court, or if you are and then it would probably be recommended if you're changing your last name.
So yeah, that's only for changing your last name. If you're changing first and middle only, you do not need an affidavit. You can just do the motion and that will be approved pretty regularly. It's really if you're trying to change your last name that the court wants you to publish it to let people know that this is happening. And in that case, I would say even if you're just doing it for a general reason, I would still include an affidavit and just explaining more for your personal reason. Even if it's just general, I would just say, right, I am transgender. Considering the state of the world, right? I am scared for my physical safety if anyone were to find out, about this in the public in the newspaper. So I even if it's just a general safety concern, I would still include an affidavit regardless if you're changing your last name.
Thank you.
But again, right, I think it's really court to court dependent, judge to judge dependent. I've seen some of these be allowed with very little explanation, and judges will say, yep, you're transgender, I'm going to allow you to, waive publication. And in some cases, I've seen that somebody had a very specific safety concern and the judge denied it and said, nope, I want you to publish. And so it really just depends judge to judge. So I would be as specific as you can to try to give yourself that best chance, because you never know which judge you're going to get.
And something that I just want to share real quickly on that is if you do run into requests like this being denied or any other experiences that feel harmful or inequitable throughout this process, please report those to MTPC, because we can especially notice if there's patterns across community members, patterns within counties or court systems or specific judges, to better address our advocacy efforts to ensure that this process is one that is affirming as possible.
And I would say too, if the motion to waive publication is denied, you could try a second motion with more detail that might be allowed, or you could also at that point decide, okay, you know what, I don't want to go forward with the case. If I have to publish, I don't want to go forward with this, and then you don't have to. You can just dismiss your case from there. Okay, good to move on to the impounding. Okay, this is another similar where it depends case to case, judge to judge, county to county. So this is requesting to impound your entire case. And so I'll go through the motion first, and then I'll talk about some of the details around it. So the motion is pretty similar to the last one. You want to write, the plaintiff is your current legal name. The defendant is going to be blank. Motion to impound entire case. Your current legal name, you are the petitioner, and then you're requesting that the court impound the entire case. As reasons, therefore, blank, right? You want to say what your reasoning is, and then you do want to include an affidavit with this one as well. You definitely want an affidavit with this one to explain why you want to impound your entire case. Now, I've seen some counties approve these pretty regularly, and I've seen other counties, for example, in Suffolk County, where I work, I have seen these denied almost every time, unless there's a very, very specific safety concern. So it really just depends case to case, judge to judge. Now, when we say impound the entire case, what I mean there is to remove it from public record. And so when you get your name changed, like MG was saying earlier, you're going to get a docket number, and that gets put on, there's a hard copy file. There's also an electronic file that gets put on with masscourts.org. So anybody, it's public record, anybody can go on right now onto masscourts.org, and you can search anybody's name. And you can see if that person has ever changed their name. You can search their birth name or their new name, either one, and you can see if they have changed their name before, and anybody can do that right now. And so your employer can do that, your family can do that, anybody can go ahead and do that. But so many people have to know that you have to do that. A lot of people don't know that exists. You can also go into the courthouse and look at the hard copy file. It's public record. Anybody can go into the courthouse and say, hey, I want to pull this docket number, or I want to pull, the case name in Reed J. Carroll. And anybody can pull that docket number. It is public record. And so a motion to impound the entire case is basically saying, I do not want my case to be public record. I do not want anybody to be able to pull that file in person, and I want it removed from masscourts.org website. And so that would remove it from all of those places if this was allowed to impound. Now, I've had people ask me before, if does a name change show up on a background check? And I think that depends. Like most generally, no, it's not going to show up on a background check, but sometimes yes. Like some people have really sophisticated background check systems, or so I've seen sometimes it leak through, and so sometimes it does. But I would say for the most part, if you're just applying for a job, doing a background check, it's generally not going to show up. But if you're applying for a job with the federal government, it's definitely going to show up. And so it really kind of depends. So I would say generally no, but sometimes yes, right? So motion to impound the entire case is asking, hey, I'm asking the court to please remove my case from public record. Again, sometimes they're easily approved, sometimes they're not. There's also an option to impound your address. And so that would be, right, if there is a domestic violence concern, and if you were concerned that your abuser could get your address and come find you, you could also do a motion to impound your address. You can do both, right? If the motion to impound your entire case is denied, but maybe the motion to impound your address will be allowed. There's lots of different options you can kind of play around with. I think it kind of is dependent on each person, right? I would say, you can try it and see if it happens, see if it's allowed, and if it's not, that's, I think it's okay. Or maybe for some people that say, if my case is not impounded, I don't want to go forward with a name change. And so I think it's kind of each person is depending on their own risk. And then, so the back of the form is the same as the other back of the form. Your name and address, and the back you just leave blank.
Great. Thank you so much, Jay. So quickly, before we go on to this, MG, there's just a few more questions that came in about the minors. So the first one is just to verify that if a child is under the age of 12, that there's no requirement for publishing the name change, so that they wouldn't need to file a motion to waive that as part of that process, correct?
So that's only if both parents agree.
Okay, so if both parents assent to the name change of the child, there's no publication requirement, so they won't need to...
I think they would still have to do a motion.
Okay.
It could just be a quick motion, right? Just saying, motion to waive publication because both parents agree, but it still would have to be a motion to.
Okay, great, thank you. So then another question came in asking about if it would need someone asked if they would need the form 400 for a minor under 12, and I wasn't sure if that was about the motion to waive publication or the motion to impound, but basically the answer is yes, you would need to submit. If you would like to impound, you will also have to submit a motion to waive publication and a motion to impound the proceedings. Okay, great. Thank you so much. If folks have other questions about like the motion form, please feel free to put them in the chat. We may not be able to answer them in full detail tonight, but if not, we will give you our email address so that you can reach out to us and we can get in touch with you about that. So I am going to move on. We've only got about 45 minutes left in our clinic, and we've got all of our lovely identity documents to go over. So I am going to go through this whole process. So MG, if you don't mind taking over moderating the Q&A. All right, great. So you have, at this point in the process, you will have completed your name change with the court, and you will have received your new certified legal name change from the court. How you get that will depend on how you filed and how you requested it. So if you filed by mail, it will get mailed to you. If you filed in person, they will notify you to come pick it up unless you have asked them to mail it to you. So now, at this point, the most important thing for you to do next is to update your Social Security card. So that is, oh, actually, you can just go back. I'm just going to quick go through this process. Thanks, MG. This is not listed anywhere, but it has generally been advised from a number of folks that you update your Social Security record within 30 days of receiving your court-ordered name change. And this is really to make sure that all of your because most things in the US are connected somehow just to your Social Security number and your Social Security record. And the good news is that's free and it's easy and it's quick. Now, in terms of receiving your, MG said this before, but just as a refresher, it should take 2 to 4 weeks to get your court-ordered name change back to you from the court. If it takes longer than that, please reach out to us and we can help you figure out how to check the status of that. If you want to just go ahead to the next slide, MG. So this is just a quick overview again of the cost of the process. So we're going to skip down here and just look at Social Security card. Again, there's no cost for updating your Social Security card. So then the next step after that will be all of your ID documents. The Social Security card is the only one that really needs to come first. And then you can, as soon as you have your name change petition or your name change court order, you are able to do your Social Security card, your US passport, and your Massachusetts birth certificate. You don't need your name change for the birth certificate necessarily, but I'll get there in a little bit. But you cannot update your Massachusetts state ID or your driver's license without having your Social Security card updated and having the physical card with your new legal name on it. So these costs, this is all available in the documentation that we've shared, and that's on our website, and as well as the links to all of these things. And as I said earlier, everything that's listed here on this form is available for reimbursement from MTPC through our IDA Network Financial Assistance Fund. There may be other fees that we are able to cover, but if they're not on this list, we can't guarantee coverage for them. And so I'm just going to go right ahead and talk about the Social Security card. This is a really simple form. It's the same Social Security card form that everyone uses for their Social Security card. To submit this, you will need to submit a copy of your certified legal name change. a federal or state ID document, and if applicable, you may also need to establish U.S. citizenship or current authorized work authorized immigration status. Then you can do this in person or via mail. If you're going to do this in person, you'll need to schedule an appointment with the Social Security Administration office, and you can locate offices near you at ssa.gov/locator. You can also do this via mail. You'll just have to send in your Social Security card via the mail, and they will send it all back to you via mail as well. Trandri, did you want to add something?
Yes, I think in certain Social Security offices, they are requesting that people actually make an appointment and don't just show up. So you would actually have to make an appointment.
Yeah, I think that's a new policy that you have to schedule an appointment. I know that's true at least for the ones in Eastern Massachusetts. So don't just show up. That is a recent change to policy. So MG, if you just want to go forward, this is a look at the top of the this is a look at the top of the form. So again, if you are filling this out after your legal name change, you will put the new legal name in that top line. And then in the next line, that is where you will list your old legal name that is on your current Social Security card. If there's any other names that you have used, this is legal names, not informal names or nicknames, you would list them there. So if your name has changed previously, that's where you would list that. So also your Social Security number will not change as a part of this process. So you'll list your Social Security number in that field right there. And then the information on this should be copied from your birth certificate. So that's where your place of birth will go, and your date of birth. If you, number 5 is citizenship. So you'll mark that off depending on what documentation you need to provide. If you are, there's other instructions on page 3. So if you don't have a U.S. birth certificate, for instance, please refer to the instructions on there for how to establish your citizenship. There are some optional questions about race and ethnicity. And then in field 8, this is the first time we're going to talk about gender markers. So on the Social Security record, you can self-attest your gender marker. Now, this is the weird thing. There is not a clear consensus about what the Social Security Administration uses gender designations for, because there is not a gender marker on your Social Security card. It is sometimes used potentially for Medicare and Medicaid and for other health insurance things, but it doesn't seem that everyone actually thinks that's what it's for. So as of right now, there is no X marker available, but you are able to choose if you would like to have male or female on your record. Some people recommend that you have that match whatever you're going to have on your health insurance. So also, you know, as a part of this process, you will also want to check in with your healthcare providers and your health insurance about updating your gender marker there as well. You can go to the next slide. So again, this is information that you're going to pull from your birth certificate and your parents' names at birth. So this is their names at birth, not their not your mother's married name. So if it hasn't changed, great. If it has, do that. And then also your parents' Social Security numbers. Those should also be listed on your birth certificate. If not, you'll need to get them from your parents. Yeah, so if you have a Social Security card number already, you'll mark yes here, and then in line 12, you will again list the name on your current Social Security card. That is not your new legal name; that is your old name. And then that's only if there's a different date of birth. Don't worry about that. And then this is where you'll list the date that you're submitting this, and then your contact information. In the mailing address, this is important because that is where your new Social Security card will be sent to you. So you will fill this out. You will sign this. It does not need to be notarized. You mark off yourself as the person who is filling this out. If you're filling this out on behalf of a minor, you will put either parent or legal guardian. And that is it. That's all you have to do for this form. and then you will send this along with the required documents, which again, there's a better listing of what is required to go along with this attached to the SS5 form when you download it. And you can fill this in and mail it, or you can take it when you have an appointment to the Social Security Administration. Generally, it takes about 2 to 3 weeks to get your new Social Security card back. And once you do that, you can get going on your Massachusetts state ID or driver's license. So if you currently do not have a Massachusetts ID card, learner's permit, or driver's license, you will be submitting this for the first time, and you will still need to and you won't need to provide a certificate of legal name change if you are applying for the first time. You will just need to you'll just need to provide your Social Security card with your new legal name on it. You only need to provide a certificate of your legal name change if you already have a state ID from Massachusetts, or if you are converting an out-of-state license to a Massachusetts ID card or driver's license, which we will talk about a little bit later. You will need to have proof of your lawful presence in the US and your date of birth. That's generally another form of photo ID. It can be an existing ID card from the RMV. You'll need your Social Security number, which is your Social Security number card, and you'll need proof of Massachusetts residency. We highly recommend scheduling an appointment with the RMV so you don't have to wait in line for a very, very long time. So this is, this form will, if you want to go ahead, MG, this is where it will depend on, like, this is all applicable to all of these different things will change depending on your circumstances. So again, the difference between a real ID and a standard ID is that a real ID meets certain federal requirements so that it is considered a form of identification that is acceptable for boarding domestic flights, for entering federal buildings. So that is what most people are encouraged to apply for when they are getting an ID from the state. This applies to all learner's permits, driver's licenses, and ID cards. You can get a standard ID if you do not need access to federal buildings or for or if you have another form of, sorry, I said this wrong. You don't need a real ID if you have another form of identification that allows you to enter a federal building or to board a domestic flight, such as a US passport. And then this is just about if you're applying for a driver's license or permit, what type of permit you're applying for. And then in this next field, you'll just mark if you are renewing it, replacing it, converting it from out of state, etc. But the most important thing in line A4 is the change of information. So this is where if you are legally changing your name and your gender marker, where you will mark those off. If you are changing any other information, if you're also updating your address, make sure you mark that as well. So then you will fill out all of this. And this, in the name section, it says if you're getting a real ID, provide your full legal name. So this is a thing that I will mention, but I'm not going to go into depth on. If it is something that you're interested in, please email us and we can provide you more information. You can have a Massachusetts state ID card that has your common law name. That means it's a name that you are using that is not a legal name. So for instance, if you don't need to legally change your name with the court, you can still have a Massachusetts ID card or driver's license that has your chosen name on it. However, you cannot have a real ID, so you cannot use that for entering a federal building or boarding a domestic flight. We recommend that if you are legally changing your name, that you get a real ID as a part of this process so that you have this kind of approved federal document for federal identification. So you will put in here the name that you have changed to. This is your new name will go in here. If you have a current Massachusetts license, you'll put the number there and your date of birth. You will enter your Social Security number here. And if you do not have a Social Security number, there are a bunch of other steps to this process. So maybe not a bunch, but there are other steps. And you will have to follow the information that's available on the RMV's website about applying if you don't have a social security number. So if you've ever had a prior Massachusetts license or vehicle registration, you can provide that there. If you that's basically if your license has expired and you never renewed it, or if you previously had a car, but you can list that there. And then so for line 10, you put in your residential address where you live. And if your mailing address is different, you will put that in 11. If they're the same, make sure you mark the same as above. And then you will put down your contact information. This is so the RMV can contact you for all of the things you need to, including renewing and updating your documents. All right, you can go ahead. There is an optional form for emergency contact information. And then next is only if you are converting from out of state. One thing to know if you are converting your license from out of state is that it does cost significantly more money. That information is listed on our documentation. So you'll fill out all of that information if you're converting. And then in section D, this is where you will select your gender marker. You are able to select whatever gender marker you would like on this ID. You do not need any evidence or proof to select any of them. You just pick which gender marker you would like on your ID. Now, again, make sure if you're changing this from your current ID that you have marked off that box at the top that says you're changing your gender. All right. And then list your eye color and your height. You can choose whether or not to be an organ and tissue donor, and if you want to donate to the Organ and Tissue Donor Registration Fund. There will be questions about your military status or your veteran status. And then section E, you only need to worry about if you are downgrading a CDL, which I'm sure most people do not. You are also able to register as a voter. So if you are changing your name here, if you have just changed your name, you can register to update your voter registration on this form here with your new legal name. You don't have to, but you can. Continue. So these are other questions that are asked of all people who are applying, which is if you've had any other driver's licenses in any other state, country, or jurisdiction, you must list the information about them here. And then there are other questions that are mandatory for all driver's licenses, particularly about whether or not you're eligible to have a driver's license and other things that might impair your ability to drive. Go ahead. So then if this is for a minor, this section H must have consent of either a parent, a legal guardian, DCH, or a boarding school headmaster, which I never noticed that before, but that makes sense for Massachusetts. And then there will be, this only, again, needs to be one parent or guardian. It does not need to be both. And can just print a name, address, signature, and then the applicant must sign here. Something important to note for minors is obviously driver's licenses are only available, or licenses and permits are only available for minors age 16 and up, but minors ages 14 and up can have a state ID card. So any minor that is 14 can go and get a state ID card to have their own photo ID. You know, that is particularly helpful for some students in high schools and in other places where it might be important for them to have an affirming official ID document. All right, so that is it for the driver's license. So next we're going to talk about the passport card. I have been spending a lot of time updating this, so if you have questions, I can answer them or you can email me about them. So if you have a current valid, this is for adults. I will warn you that the process for minors, I'm very well acquainted with it because I updated our forms today, is very complicated. So I'm actually not going to go through the process of passports for minors today because it will be too long to talk about in the amount of time that we have. So if that information is now provided on our quick reference guides, and you are always welcome to reach out to us and we can help you navigate this process. So if you are renewing, if you have a current valid passport that is in your old name and or gender marker, you are now able to renew it via mail and you do not need to go in person. So you will just need to submit the renewal application, provide a copy of your legal name change, and a current valid passport, book, or card. If you are upgrading from a card to a book, you'll need to send in your card. If you have both a passport, book, and a card, you will have to send them both in. And then you will also need to provide a 2x2 color photograph. You can go in person if you want to, but you do not have to. So if you want to go ahead. So this is the renewal form. You'll mark off which documents you want. I literally just filled out mine yesterday to renew mine. And then you'll list the name here. This is the name that you are updating your document to. So if you are changing your legal name, you will list that name here. You'll see it says or name change document. And then most folks mark off regular book unless you need a large book at the top for if you do a lot of international travel. So you'll do your last name, first name, middle name, date of birth. And then again, this is gender markers. So again, with the passport, as of right now, you can self-attest your gender on your gender marker. You can select M, F, or X. If you are changing it from what is currently on your passport, make sure you mark that yes box right there under question 3. So there's a lot of questions from folks, both here tonight and otherwise, about changing gender marker on the passport with incoming new presidential administration. I will say this, is that MTPC will not tell you what we think is right or wrong. We will give you as much information as we can to help you make the most informed decision that you can. Most folks are seeking to change their gender marker from one to another, and I definitely would recommend, if that is something you want to do it now. So you can start the passport renewal or application process as soon as you get your court-ordered name change. You do not need your Social Security card first. You can start those processes concurrently. So in terms of the gender marker, we get a lot of questions about, should I change it to an X? Is it safe to change it to an X? First off, I want to assure you, an X gender marker is an internationally recognized gender marker. The first country to institute a legal X gender marker for passports was India. So I want to also dispel, a lot of folks have Western-centric notions about the X gender marker that really are not applicable. And I want to make sure that you know that this is something that exists worldwide. There are definite concerns that are valid to have about having an X on your US passport, both for domestic and international travel. And I would caution folks to think about the impacts of having that on your gender mark on your passport when you are interacting with folks. I would not be so concerned about having it on your passport record and in a government database, because no matter what, they will know that you have changed your gender marker. So don't be afraid about having an X on your record with the passport. The times I caution folks to think about carefully where they will be traveling, both domestically and internationally, with an X marker, is about who they'll actually be interacting with, who will be seeing their passport in person. If there are questions about that, please put them in the Q&A. We can talk about them more at the end. So next, you're going to put in your place of birth. This should be exactly as it's listed on your birth certificate. And then you'll put in your Social Security number. Put in your email here to receive notifications about your passport status. And this is how you'll look up the status of your passport application. And you will also put in your phone number so that they can contact you if they have questions or there are issues. The mailing address is very important. That's where they're going to send your new passport, book, and/or card. Make sure that's accurate. And then all that's there. And then again, listing all other names you have used. These are prior legal names. So for instance, if you are changing your legal name on your passport, your new legal name will be in the name field at the top, and you must, in question 9, put the names that you are changing. So these forms are pretty much all filled out through the U.S. State Department's form filler tool now. And when they ask you to put in your name information here, they will ask you other first name, other last name. So that will automatically fill these in. If there are more than 2 names, or you have changed your first name and your last name multiple times, you will need to attach more information. There is, again, more instructions about that on the State Department's website. So this is where you will attach your photo. You will only, I just learned this today. If you are renewing your passport, you will take your photo and attach it here. If you are applying for the first time, do not staple your photo. We'll get to that form next. So this is where you'll take that photo, where you'll attach that photo, make sure it meets the photo requirements. There's a whole tool for checking the photo on the State Department's website now. It's also really easy to go and get that done at a post office or most pharmacies that have photo services. So this is where you'll list the information on your most recent passport documents. So you will list the name that is on your most recent passport book or card. So that will be your previous name. And then you will also be putting the number of your most recent passport book and or passport card here. Those are different numbers. It's important to note. Something that I'm quickly going to add here, because this recently changed, is that you can now renew if your passport is expired, as long as it was not issued more than 15 years ago. So that information is now all updated on our quick reference guides and on the State Department's website. So that will guide you through all of the steps for this, and it will take you to which form is the correct one. And then if you are changing your name, which you likely are, this is where you will do it, and you will mark off changed by court order. You'll put the city and state where the courthouse was, where your name was changed. So as an example, if you live in Somerville, you're in Middlesex County, and where the courthouse is in Woburn. So you will put Woburn, Massachusetts there. And then you will put the date that court order was signed by the judge. And then below, you will sign your legal signature there. Again, that should match your new name. Sign your name however you'd like. There's no one's going to check it. Put the date that you have signed this and that you are submitting it. Make sure you leave the section below that blank. All right. So this is for... this is just other information that you'll fill out. This will all, if you're using the form filler tool, which you probably will, it will ask you all these questions individually. So the name of applicant, that will be your current legal name. Again, this is just the top of the second page, or sorry, not your current, your new legal name. And then you'll list your appearance information. You are required to list your occupation, but you are not required to list your employer or school. And that will tell you that in the form filler. And then additional contact phone numbers if there's anywhere else. You must list your permanent address as well. If it's not the same as your mailing address, or if you have a PO box. And then you can also optionally provide an emergency contact here. And then if you have upcoming travel plans, you can list those in section 20. And then, so that is the end of this form. A couple things I will add about passports. You can pay an additional $60 fee to have it expedited. This will increase the processing speed from approximately 3 to 8 weeks to 1 to 2 weeks. The only difference in submitting the renewal for to be expedited is to it's sent to a different address, and you must include the $60 expedite fee in your check. So for instance, just to give you an example, if you are expediting and doing your passport book and card, as I just did, it will be $220. That will all be one check, and you'll mail that along with this. All of that information is provided in the form filler tool by the State Department. All right, you can go ahead. All right, and then so this is for applying for the first passport, or if your current passport is expired by 15 years or more. So you'll need the application for a US passport, and you will need to go in person. And I don't believe that appointments are required for passports, because there are many different places that you can do this. One important thing to know is that applying for a passport for the first time, or if it's expired more than 15 years, there is an acceptance fee that you will have to pay in addition to the application fee. That's all listed on our financial assistance document. So go ahead, MG. So this form, very much the same information. And Again, if you actually just go back real quick, in the gender marker thing, there is instructions on page 1. If you are, you only need to mark changing gender marker if your passport is expired and you are more than 15 years and you are updating it. Other than that, if you are applying for a passport for the first time, you can just mark whichever box you want. Again, there's no requirement for evidence of gender affirmation medically or anything like that. So you don't need to mark changing gender marker. Well, I guess maybe you do have to mark that if it's different than your ID. I actually don't know the answer to that question, but they don't use the gender marker from your citizenship or identity documents to fill this form. So I don't think you have to mark that. If you have that question, please feel free to reach out to us and we can look into it. But you can self-select the gender marker that you would like on your passport. All of these forms are the same otherwise. That top right section you'll leave blank. That's for the passport officers to take a look at. All right, continue. Again, this is the instead of copying this information from your passport, you will copy information from your identifying documents for your identity and your citizenship. So if you're doing this for a minor, again, the process is very different and the parent legal guardian's information will be entered here. And again, these forms are all online now. So you will not attach, when you print this out, you will not attach the photo. You will bring the photo with you when you submit it, and the passport authorized officer will take that. So again, if you're age 16 or older, you will sign there. If you are below the age of 16, the minor will not be signing, just the guardians will. And one important thing to note is that if you are submitting this on behalf of a minor who is under the age of 16, both parents must be present with photo ID at the time of submitting this. So that information, like I said, is listed on our guides. Please check those out and feel free to reach out to us for more info. Go ahead. And again, this information will be pulled from your documentation that you're providing. And they will also ask, there's just some more questions that they ask you that they would have on file for you, such about like married, your citizenship, and everything else is the same as the other one. Again, emergency contact information. And then if you have applied or been issued a passport book or card before, you will include that in this section here. So that also will mean if you have applied and been denied for a passport, you will have to list that information here. And again, at the bottom, that's for the issuing office only. Leave that blank. All right, so now I get to talk about the fun part. Oh, actually, I think we had some questions in the Q&A about passports. So someone is asking about traveling abroad in March, and if the process isn't completed by then and they're not able to get a passport in time, is there still a way for them to travel? So yes, you can travel with, as long as your passport is valid, you can travel with it without it being updated. So if you have like your court order, but you haven't received you haven't applied for a new passport yet, you can travel with that. You will just need to bring a certified official copy of your legal name change order with you when you're traveling. If you're traveling and you are able to start this process as quickly as possible, I would recommend that you should go ahead and do this. If you are able to get your court ordered name changes, within the next month, I think you would be able to get your passport by this time in March. You will just want to make sure that you list it that you're traveling soon. And if it's getting close, you may want to mark that you're doing it, you want it expedited, or that you want to pay a fee to have the shipping, like you can get it shipped in like a week. You can also go in person to a passport, to like an official passport office for really short turnaround times. That information again is on the State Department's website. Let's see here. So yeah, your passport does not need to match your other identity documents. So you are totally able to fly. So if you're, to answer the question that someone asked about an international flight coming up, if you book the flight over whatever ID you will be using that is valid to get into the airport. So if you are using your passport for an international flight, book the flight using the name that is on your passport. Don't use your new legal name. So you can do that. I would still recommend bringing your legal name change, like a certified copy of your legal name change order, with you while you're traveling, in case you need to present it while you are overseas, but you should be okay. So there's a question about, I need to change password again after name change. So I would recommend, in all cases, get your name change done before you update any documents, or you will have to update them twice. If you get, like, if you want to update your gender marker with it before changing your legal name, you can, but you will have to not only submit it twice, you will have to pay twice. If you think that it's not going to happen anytime soon in terms of getting your name legally changed, go ahead and change your gender marker. It's really up to you what is going to be safest and most affirming for you. If having a mismatch between a gendered name and a gender marker that doesn't match with that is something that you think might not be affirming or might not be safe, again, take that into consideration. For minors with non-expired passports, the rules are different because you cannot renew a minor who is under the age of 16. So please check our guides and the State Department's website for information on that. For expediting the passport. So if you are applying online or by mail for the passport, all of the information about expediting is there on the website. So you, like, when you mark off, like when you fill out the form, it will ask you if you want to expedite, and it will ask you if you want to get it mailed to you faster. Both of those options are available, and they both cost an extra fee. And then reading through the instructions on the passport application or renewal will give you all the information you need about doing that. All right. And again, if you have questions about passports for minors, please feel free to email me at deputy@masstpc.org. All right. All right. So now we're going to talk about birth certificates. So now there's been a few questions about out-of-state birth certificates. MTPC does not provide assistance with birth certificates from states other than Massachusetts. However, we will pay for the amendment and updating fees for that. So we can't give you assistance with filling out the forms and going through the process in other states, but we can connect you to resources to help you with that. So I know there was a question in the Q&A about Pennsylvania, and some other folks reached out about other states. Please reach out to us at our email about those states, and we can connect you to resources in those states if you would like to change your birth certificates in those states. There are other organizations in those states. Like, I know there was a question about Ohio. Trans Ohio can certainly help you understand what the state is for birth certificates there. And we've also got a lot of friends and partners in other states that can walk through this, as well as some partners at the national level. So this is about the Massachusetts birth certificate. I have some really exciting updates about Massachusetts birth certificates that just happened over the past couple of months. So first off, the birth certificate process has just gotten a complete overhaul in Massachusetts, and it's much easier than it has been in the past. So you just need one form right now to update your gender marker on your birth certificate. And then if you're changing your legal name, which I'll get into in the next step, you'll also need a certified copy of your legal name change. So you can submit this by mail or in person. And you can also e-file it, but again, we've heard mixed things about that process. So we definitely recommend submitting by mail or by going in person, but mail is certainly easiest if you want to go ahead. So the new changes to the birth certificate is that you don't need to update your legal name when you change your sex designation. You now have up to 3 years after changing your your sex designation on your Massachusetts birth certificate to update your legal name. There was a question from someone that was asking if you can update your legal name on your birth certificate without changing your gender marker, and unfortunately you cannot. That is a standard rule that the birth certificates generally record what happened at the time of birth and not what changed later. So anyone who changes their name legally for non-gender affirming purposes cannot change their name on their birth certificate. You can only do that if this is specifically for gender affirmation and gender transition. So you are now able to change your birth certificate gender marker to M, F, or X in Massachusetts, and there is no longer any medical requirement for having received any type of gender affirming medical care, which means you no longer need an affidavit from a doctor, and that does not need to be notarized. This form also does not need to be notarized. You are just signing an affidavit that is affirming that you are doing this because of gender transition. This information again is on our website. The forms are very new. But they're very simple. And then there is one minor change to this for minors, which is that if a minor's birth certificate is amended for sex designation while they're a minor, that minor will have 3 years from the date of their 18th birthday to update their legal name. So I know there was a question in the Q&A earlier about if both of those things had to happen at the same time, and that no longer has to happen. Can you go ahead, MG? Yeah, so this is just what that form looks like. I know we're about to run out of time, so I want to make sure we have some time for some Q&A. So you will put in the information that is on the existing birth certificate there, and then in that next field, you will put what is the new legal name. So if you're not changing the legal name, you will put the current the existing legal name as well, and then you can mark whichever sex marker you or the minor wants in this process. And then next you'll have your contact information. So if you are an adult, you'll put your contact information. If you're filling this out for a minor, it will be your contact information. So then here you will be submitting, if you are changing your legal name or a minor's legal name, you must submit a certified copy of the name change decree. And then it is a $50 amendment fee. And if you would like any additional copies, they will send you one copy of the updated birth certificate. If you want any additional copies, it is $32 to have a copy mailed per copy to have it mailed to you, or $20 per copy if you will go and pick it up. And someone asked in the questions about doing it in person. There is information on the Massachusetts Vital Records website about scheduling and how to schedule an appointment to go do this application in person, but it is also, you're equally fine to do this by mail. So then for here, if the person the subject is a minor, the parent and guardian will sign there, and then fill in your name in that field and then sign below. And if you are an adult filling this out, you can just sign in signature of subject, and the minor does not need to sign that field if they are under 18 and the parent is submitting this for them. And this is where you will submit that to, and that is also where you would go to submit that in person if you wanted to go in person. It looks like you can also make them at the clerk's office in the city or town of birth, but it must be the city or town of birth where the birth certificate is from, not where you currently live. And fees, if you do that in one of those places, the fees may vary because those fees are different per town or city. All right. That is the end of the ID documents portion of this. We've got a few minutes left for questions. Are there any questions that we have not yet answered? So there was a question here that was about a copy of a federal state ID document. I think that was for Social Security. I would refer to what it actually says on the attachments and the instructions for the SS5 form for the Social Security card, because I'm actually not sure. I wasn't aware that that was a new requirement. I work with college. So if the student lives here for more than half the year, this is for the question about college students, they can change their name in Massachusetts as long as they have a residential address at their college or off campus. And I actually don't, that is a good question about if their parents claim them on their taxes. I don't think there would be any impact. I don't know how that would impact our taxes, but it would not impact the child's ability to change their name legally. I don't know how I can't answer the question about how that would impact the taxes. But yes, as long as the student lives in person in Massachusetts, for more than half a year, they are definitely able to do that here. If they are attending a college in Massachusetts, but attending virtually and living in another state, they are not eligible. They must be living here physically. Yeah, are there any other questions? Please feel free to put them in the Q&A. Also, please feel free to submitting them via email to us. I know we've provided a lot of information to you, and we've put a lot of information in forms and links in the chat. But yeah, please. Yeah, I don't know if there's any other questions. This has been great, and I'm so glad to have so many folks here. Yeah, so with that, if there's no more questions, I think we'll wrap up. Please feel free to contact us, programs@masstpc.org, or contact Ava at namesake at hey@joinnamesake.com. And if you want to talk to Jay, you have to come through us. So thank you all so much. I think that's where we're going to wrap up for tonight. So again, it's been great to have you all with us.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks all.